All right, guys. Today we're back in the wild, and somehow I ended up in Michigan, where it is like negative 150 degrees outside. Wind chill's brutal.
It's only -7. Come on, it's not that bad, but
Oh,
it
it's
is pretty
awful.
terrible. Yeah. Well, we're here in the heated shop. Welcome
So-
to Pandemic Performance.
Pandemic Performance. And who are you?
So I'm Mark Bajor, owner and founder of Pandemic Performance. Started during the pandemic in 2020, if you couldn't guess by the name.
Nice play. Nice play. So, what got you into the off-road community?
So the off-road community. So a lot of people that know Pandemic know me. They may or may not know that I actually started out as an engineer in the power sports industry. So I'm originally born and raised here in Michigan. Somehow ended up back here during COVID. But right out of college, I got a job at Polaris, working there. I was a summer intern initially through college, and then right after college, I went there over in Minnesota. So started out in the North Country, Roseau, Minnesota.
So, you went straight to Polaris after college, and then what was the transition from like going to work for Polaris,
Yep.
and then what led that into this? Like, we're in a decent sized shop. It got heat already, plus 10 points for me because it's cold as hell outside.
Yeah, well, I don't like wearing pants. Kind of fun fact, I like wearing shorts. So when I wrench on stuff in the garage, I want to be nice and comfortable. But as far as like what transitioned into this, so I was an engineer at Polaris for almost 10 years. Worked on a variety of stuff. Ultimately, was in the Razor group, and just always had a passion for off-road stuff. But what really led me to Polaris was riding snowmobiles. I grew up riding sleds. Here in Michigan, it's always cold, snowy, but we always had snowmobiles growing up and we raced them. So that just kind of led me to there. And then, fast forward after working there, COVID hit, and it was just time to reevaluate some things. And I had a really sweet job offer at GM, which is where I'm at now. And work on a lot of motorsport stuff. So that job transitioned me back to Michigan, and then throughout all of that, a lot of people knew me from the industry or knew that I tuned things. Just started coming to my shop all the time. At that time it was just a little garage, and everybody was like, "Well, hey, can you tune my Razor? Can you do this, that?" And ended up we were just sitting here where we're at right now, drinking a couple beers, and I'm like, man, I should make a business out of this. But what do you name it, right? We had a variety of names. It was either going to be Tuner Boys, Hot Tune Performance, and then Pandemic Performance. And why we chose Pandemic is it's a little bit of a play on words. My Instagram at the time was called Pandemic Paradise, and a lot of people kind of wonder the spelling, why we spell it with a YK, and that's purely just so when you search it up, you're not bombarded with all the COVID stuff.
Right.
The first ones to pop up. It's a little bit unique. And my last name, or my first name, ends with a K. We end the Pandemic with a K. So that's just kind of how we began and how that transition.
So, you're snowmobile guy.
Yep.
You ended at Polaris. You work for GM currently and do this.
Yep.
So, those don't say mud at all.
No.
And
so how did I get into the mud scene? Yeah. And it's funny, growing up, I always loved playing in the mud. I started out on a Suzuki Quad Runner 250, and then also had a Quad Racer 250R 2-stroke. And growing up in Michigan, we always had muddy farm fields, everything like that. And I always found myself stuck in the mud somewhere, And then how did it transition to the big stuff? Well, I've been going to Mud Nationals for better part of 15, almost 20 years, whenever it got started, and always loved doing it and dreamed of doing it, but just never had the opportunity to build a giant buggy. And honestly, it wasn't until we partnered up with Megan Ryan, which shout out to her. She's awesome with Diamond Dust and kind of helped put our name on the map. So I got to give her credit for that. But she has her really awesome bounty bike, and it just kind of gave me the itch to build one myself after going for a ride with her. So here we are. And
50s.
On 50s, yeah. So it's a Razor Pro R, and we were one of the first ones to actually, build up a Pro R. They were new enough. We built it pretty much right in 2022 when they first came out, and no one really knew much about them. They were kind of scared of them, and then now they're pretty much one of the more potent machines in the series.
That's the big money. I just got that little XP turbo. So you mud race now. You do the bounty course. You do bounty holes. So out of all the different kinds of riding, snowmobiles, you travel to Hawaii and go, rip Jeeps. And you've done so much different forms of off-roading, right? Like not just bounty race or just snowmobile. Out of all the things that you do, what do you find the most enjoyment in?
Ooh, that's a tough question because I always bounce back and forth. On cold days like today, I would say I love razor riding and bounty hole racing the most. But um, to be honest, riding snowmobiles is still my passion. There's nothing like getting out there in deep snow. And for those that haven't rode them, it's almost like riding a jet ski. If you haven't rode one, once you get in deep powder, it just kind of you float around, and the rest of the world just doesn't really matter when you do that. And obviously, your machines stay clean, so that's nice. That's a bonus. But really, nothing in this world that we can attain goes as fast as a snowmobile as far as like overall acceleration. Like we're talking 0 to 60 in like sub 2 seconds. So
Dang.
that's hard
now
to get.
you compare that to a no prep racer where they're doing 60 feet
Right.
in 1xx 0x
Yep.
seconds.
Yep.
So driving a snowmobile would almost be like strapping into like a no prep or a radio car.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's and the reason why I say attainable is that no prep car is kind of hard for the average guy to go out and do. Whereas a sled.
Yeah, the average car now is 150 or better.
Yeah. Yeah.
150 for a chassis just to think about going fast, really.
Yep. So I mean, whereas a snowmobile, you can get into the sport reasonably for 10 to 15K, something like that. But no, that's kind of where my passion still is. But obviously, the mud scene, as far as pandemic performance goes, we tend to cater to the mud customer because we're mud riders making tunes for mud riders. And a lot of the other tuning companies out there, they do really good work. But you don't really see them too much at the mud parks. They focus out west in the sand and rocks and stuff like that, and that's cool. But going to mud nats year after year, there was really not that much support for it. And we always found ourselves frustrated, lacking support. So we're like, well, we're going to focus on this market. And we've been doing quite well at it.
So what is more enjoyable? Do you like, obviously snowmobile racing's top tier, right? So now if we switch over to just the mud aspect, right? So if we talk about like trail riding, and then we did Redneck Rave together.
Yep.
Chaos.
I was just
madness, really.
I was just talking to Justin Time today. He posted, where's your favorite place to ride and where have you seen them? And I came across a picture of us there at Redneck Raves. That's funny you brought that up.
And then we do like Gregory Lake. We do that together. Like, so out of all the different forms of riding there is, because you even got a race car over here too.
Yeah.
So when you break up just side-by-sides off of the snowmobile stuff, out of the side-by-side stuff that you do, what is more enjoyable? Do you like the racing or the bounty course, the party aspect? What is your what is your go-to for people who don't know
for people that don't know me? You obviously know the party aspect is kind of the main reason why we do the mud scene, but just because the scenery is so great, and I'll pretty much leave it at that. But if you do want to see some scenery, we do have our pandemic performance calendars. Quick plug. But no, honestly, the bounty course stuff is really the main thing we like. And really, one of my favorite races in 2024 was Battle of the Builds. They build a gnarly course. It's very intimidating. It's like a 10-foot ledge, it seems like, and you drop into 6 feet of water. And I'm like, there is no way like people are going to make it through this. And sure enough, like we strapped in, cameras are rolling, and we jumped this, and it went flawless. So that was a huge adrenaline rush, and that's why I like the bounty racing, because you don't really know if you're going to make it to the other side. I'm sure there's people that skim and stuff, and you've probably seen us take a snowmobile. The bounty
over
course.
At Gregory Lake.
Yeah. So that was pretty wild. But yeah, honestly, out of all of it, I like it just because it's the challenge, because you never know if you're going to get to the other side. Every other racing, it's it's a course and you go in loops or a drag race, but this, you never really know.
So Battle of the Builds, you think is like, because you did, let me think here. You done Gregory Lake.
Yep.
The straight bounty hole.
Yep.
You did you did the one with the curve.
Yep.
The corner at the end. Then you did
we did bounty course.
The pond.
And there was the pond.
At Blue Holler.
Yep. That's right. Yeah, the pond. Yeah.
So you did the pond.
Yeah.
Which was a challenge in its own, because
I've been going
to Blue Holler, which isn't a long time, so don't come for me in the comments. I know I just moved to Kentucky, but in the last 4 years now, I've never seen somebody start to finish in a side by side, except for Mike Haddock. He did it my very first year at Redneck Rave, and then
Okay.
he got threatened to get kicked out or
Really?
something crazy.
Wow.
And the pond was off limits after that, but nobody really knew how deep it was, how the bottom was, because that's all something like if you trail ride a buggy this big, those are all things that you have to process when you're doing 30 mile an hour. You got both hands, 2 drinks, one in each of them. You got the music turned up so loud you can't hear anything. And now you got to think about, man, if I dip off into here, what happens next?
Yeah.
But then we did the bounty course.
Yep.
Down in Alabama at Bogs and Boulders. And then I think I watched you race at Mud Nationals
Mud
too.
National, the Southern Bounty Series, which that's also a really fun series, and out of all of them, I mean, I think Southern Bounty Series puts on a good one. Usually it's 3 wide. We raced the Heydays this past year too, and that was awesome.
How is Heydays?
It was good. I've been going there for, better part of 15 years, even back when I worked at Polaris. But now that they've got the mud scene, the whole side-by-side market's really taken off. It was good. It's different racing 3 wide.
Did you get to meet the Sea-Boys up there?
I did get to meet the Sea-Boys. Yeah,
Man.
they got some pretty awesome stuff. Yeah.
Them dudes.
They got the mini trucks, cramming every different kind of motor in there. It's pretty cool.
They just did the Hayabusa one. I think the Stark stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. If you ever see this, I'm trying to do a podcast.
Yeah, Sea-Boys is pretty awesome. Yeah, you guys do a lot of good work. And then and let's talk about Whiskey Biz too. He does a lot of crazy stuff.
Killer content.
We were just at Off-Road Products Expo, and we had our little mini RCR 3-wheeler, which is why we don't have one here, but he bought it. So rumor on the street is he's going to do some wild stuff with that, as he always does. So
and you never know who's going to be on the show next.
You really never know.
So like and subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell, because there's already been some crazy offers to shoot some podcasts. And, we're in the wild. We're out here at your shop, kicking it, just having a conversation. So if you like it, leave a comment. If there's something I could do better, leave a comment. If you want to see somebody new, somebody that's not in the off-road community or, the no prep racing community, drop a comment, tag them below.
Yeah.
But when you race the bounty course stuff, it's either A, extremely fast, or B, real nasty.
Real nasty, yeah.
So how do you make the transition between the buggy on 50s and then your race car?
Well, so we've done pretty much all of the racing in our big buggy here. The race car you're mentioning is a 4C Pro R supercharged, 585 horse on methanol. That's
sick.
Pretty much our sand drag car. That's usually what we do sand drags with. But you won't see that vehicle in too many other scenarios. Not that it's not good. It's just that one's just kind of mainly our dyno car. So it's just easier to have it for sand drags and dyno. But we try to do everything with the big Pro R, and that's kind of why we purposely raced it in so many different series and environments. We've even seen this thing at the sand dunes. We had this at Glamis. We had it at King of the Hammers, up Chocolate Thunder. The reason why we do that is we built this to be a kind of a one-size-fits-all machine. So there's a lot of haters out there. A lot of people are like, oh, you need 56s or you need BKTs or this or that. And we wanted to be a little bit different, right? And
that's where I'm at. I'm on 44s, and everybody always gives me the lecture. That's not made to go ride the mountains.
Yep.
You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. You need the hydro steer. And literally, it's a long travel buggy on 6-inch boxes and 44s. And I cut this thing no slack.
No.
With or without oil. Okay.
Yeah. No oil's key. And I'm gonna give you a hard time on the no oil thing. Yours was no oil in the motor. Mine, I've ran my portals dry for quite some time, and I've never had a portal failure. Shout out to Super ATV. They do awesome work. They make the GDP portals. We're on the 8-inch single idler cast portals. And the reason why we did this whole thing's a budget build, right? Because we always like to test whatever we sell. But we're always, we grew up, at least I grew up on a farm, and you don't have unlimited budget. So I always try to do, things budget conscious, whether it's tuning or vehicle builds, and I try to get the customer as much as they can for as little expense out of their pocket. So
if I would have met him before I started, I wouldn't be in 6 figures into my buggy.
No. Granted, this is probably a 6-figure buggy here.
But look at the size of it.
It's big, and honestly, a lot of the money's in the motor. So this is a Pro R. This is the buggy we initially started all of our R&D on. But it's got Crower stroker crank, billet rods, cam heads, piston exhaust with our tune, but it's a naturally aspirated build. And a lot of people wonder why NA. We are the supercharger guys, we're the Craftworks guys, and we mainly just wanted a buggy that was different from our drag car. We've already got a supercharged Pro R. We wanted to have one that's a little bit different tune for the NA guys out there. And frankly, for the mud, you don't necessarily need all the power, especially for small tires like this. Um, but it's good. It's a good trail buggy, and we built it to really do everything. I mean, honestly, with the exception of one ball joint failure, which let's give Polaris a little bit of credit. Like, those are factory ball joints, and everybody, it blew their mind. The ball joint actually didn't fail. It pulled out of the knuckle on the portal plate. So
So do you think you just wallered out
we did.
the ball
We
joint?
did. But we reached out to Super ATV. They were awesome. They sent us pretty much all new portal plates, everything, overnight, which was really awesome. And then we went ahead and while we're doing it, we just went ahead and put Kellers in and haven't had any issue since. I mean, we've
Yeah,
jumped it.
I swear by
I mean,
Kellers.
we've not been easy on this buggy. And people call them buggies, cars, whatever. I mean,
Bikes,
we always but I'm not. I don't understand bikes, but
bike, car, buggy,
but
side by side, whatever you want to call it.
yeah. So this one's name is just either we call it Black and Orange or the Pandemic Pro R, one of the two. But no, honestly, it's been going for 3 years, and we're wondering what do we do next, right? We literally just put gas in it and enjoyed it, no issues. So now we're like, what do we do next, right?
It's
So
got to be something big.
stay tuned. Yeah, we're working on some stuff. But
It's got to be big. I mean, you look at the momentum of not even just racing.
yeah,
Shout out to some folks. I know you guys watch this, so I won't dime you all out. But look at the progression from like when I started riding in 21. I know I'm new. Roast me. When I started in 21, if you had a 32-inch tire, that was big. In
yeah.
21.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed overnight,
And then
crazy.
by the time that I blinked and bought my first set of 32s with beadlocks, then all of a sudden it was 35s.
Yep.
So then I did 4-inch boxes and 35s. And then that lasted 6 months. Then I went to 37s because you got to have bigger.
Yeah.
You always got to go
a few
bigger.
inches too short,
Exactly. So then, 37s were still a big tire, especially, in Kentucky, because everybody was like, well, why are you doing that? It's going to fail. And I was like, well, it didn't. So now we'll skip 40s. We'll skip 42s. I'm going to try to keep up with everybody else, and I'm going to jump to 44s because then I'm only 3 inches shorter than everybody else.
Yep.
Well, then, I finally get the 44s. Everything's going good. And then I blow my motor up.
Yeah.
So I have only gotten to ride my 44s for
not a whole
20 hours.
Yeah. So, and now it's already time to go bigger because, now
50s are a medium tire.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, we raced either, some classes are medium, some classes are big tire. Because you got the Outlaws. I mean, they're running 60 plus, Bobby Cobb's on 63s. That was a buggy we supercharged. It's awesome. But we wonder, what's
Megan
next?
Ryan, she's got 63s, right?
She's on 63s as well. Yeah. And that's pretty much the gold standard right now, it seems like, until somebody, there's people out there on 65s or 70s. Maybe that'll become more mainstream. But yeah, that's kind of where you need to be competitive now.
And now there's trail rigs on 56s,
which is wild. Well, we're actually, our next buggy that we're not going to race, but just for a trail buggy, is we're talking about taking a Ranger 1500 and just doing a mild build on 50s, right? So thumper cab.
Mild. Wait. Let's run this back. Okay. What did you just say?
Mild build on 50s, which honestly now...
Mild build on 50s.
Yeah, 50s is the new norm. It seems like that's just a normal, easygoing trail tire, right? And, shout out to EFX. They make a really awesome tire. They were the first ones to really pioneer side-by-side specific 50-inch tire. And we'd love to have, maybe a 54 or 56 version of this, maybe a little bit wider.
You swear by these tires? Because you can clearly see the difference between like a BKT and this.
You definitely can. And honestly, a lot of people are like, oh, that's not going to go through anything. And it doesn't all the time, but there's times where like take the Southern Bounty series, for example. Like, there's some of those holes where everybody's chewing through them on BKTs. They're digging to the bottom, and Heydays is one that sticks out in my mind where, there's huge buggies. I mean, you've got Gamma, you got Megan Ryan, like all these huge buggies just going through, and like they're making it, but like they're really trenching down in that mud. And this thing just kind of tractored through that clay, So there's times where it does really good, surprisingly well, and there's times where if it's just a deep, black muck, it's just going to sink to the bottom.
And
So,
regardless of what tire you run, really.
yeah. So I mean, there's times these tires have definitely impressed me. They've got me through some things that I wouldn't think so. So, and what I like about them is, to your point earlier, I don't really change anything. I can hit the bounty hole
Right.
and then go and hang out the rest of the night on the trails, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and not have to change anything, and they ride smooth. So we'll see. But I think the next build, I'm definitely going to have probably these same tires. Hopefully they come out with a bigger size, but um, the next machine I build, not for racing, is going to be an enclosed vehicle. I mean, I don't know if I'm just getting old or what.
I was going to ask. So obviously, like this thing, when you see it on the trailer, you know who it is, who drives it. It's kind of the same as mine. Like when you see me and my twin pull up, you know exactly what's bound to happen.
Yeah.
5 a.m. becomes the new 9 p.m. And it's a great time, don't get me wrong. But, with your new one, are you going to stick with the same color scheme?
So lately I've been on a teal kick, and not like to steal your thunder, but I think teal is definitely pretty hot.
We're going to have the Three Stooges out here, Mud Nationals.
Yeah, but I think, no, I mean, honestly, we're probably going to stick with the black and orange theme just because that's kind of our, overall, pandemic theme.
That's y'all's thing now.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like the overall, like apocalypse deal, that's more or less our thing. So we're going to stay black and orange. Orange is my favorite color. Growing up, I was a pumpkin farmer, to be honest, and I don't know if that's why I like orange so much, but yeah, definitely it's going to be orange.
Pumpkin farmer gone rogue.
That's what it is, and honestly, that's what we call this sometimes, is the great pumpkin. But when I say pumpkin farmer, we're not. I mean, I grew small pumpkins, but we're talking like 1,000-pound plus pumpkins. Like we do our own hybrid seeds and everything. We grow giant pumpkins. So, yep. I grew up on a farm.
I'm out on all that. If you can't put them in that little slingshot at the pumpkin farm with your kids and reel that sucker back and let her fly, I'm out.
Yeah, it's a different thing for sure. But yeah, no, the next build will be black and orange. It's just, what is it going to be, right? I mean, it might be a Maverick R. So even though we're big Polaris guys.
I am not a Polaris. I'm not a Can-Am guy. And like my thing is I like to trail ride.
Yeah.
And I like getting tore off in anything. And no hate, but when I seen Bobby race at the Bounty course, right there I decided that is a no-go for me. But the Maverick R is geared so much towards King of the Hammers type stuff and doing that. And I've never been interested in the rocks. Like all my buddies, they pressure me into going and doing rocks, and then I get 20 minutes into it and I remember exactly why I hate it.
Yep, and it's rocks are a love or hate thing. I mean, rocks tear stuff up immediately, whereas mud, is slow over time. But no, you're right. The Maverick R you saw last year at the Hammers. I mean, those did exceptionally well, right? There's videos of them, articulating, going through the rocks, and we had high hopes for it in the Bounty course this past year, and you probably saw it going to Limpholm a couple times. And at that time, we were actively trying to get into the ECU, right? We had a basic tune in it, but we weren't able to shut off any of the Limpholms. We weren't able to tune the trans. And now, as of a month ago, we now have tuning support for all the new Can-Ams, which includes the Maverick R, and we can tune the engine and trans. So that's a huge thing. So that said, now that I've driven the vehicle in a variety of conditions with the tune and with the Limpholms pushed out of the way, it's a night and day different car, right? So I think.
So what you're saying is you're going to let me borrow them keys over at Mud Nationals,
well, I've seen you ride. Just make sure you got oil in it. But maybe by Mud Nats, I don't know. It's kind of a time crunch now.
And when you guys are seeing this, there's probably only going to be like 40 days left until Nats.
Yeah.
And my buggy is still in the enclosed trailer waiting to go to triage as soon as I get the motor. So time is literally slipping away by, like, it's slipping so fast.
You're right.
Like, I didn't realize when I first started doing like the content creating, like I started a calendar. And I've been just chipping away at it a little by little. Yeah. And it's crazy. You load up your phone one day and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I've got 62 days from today till Nats. You guys will probably see, and there'll be like 40 days left. But 40 days, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, like I work, I'm out hauling campers all the time. Like I don't
It's tough.
How do you balance the work-life balance, especially when it comes to having a job that's not in the community?
Right.
Like you do the GM stuff Monday through Friday, I assume.
Yep.
And then you do pandemic on the
Right.
nights, weekends, and in your sleep, you know?
Pretty much, yeah. People joke I never sleep, but no, it is tough, right? And that's something. I mean, as we go into 25, I'm reprioritizing, personal, mental, physical health. I used to be in really good shape, but through all that, right? Yeah, I work full time, Monday through Friday, 50 to 60 hours a week at that job, and then take that as soon as I get home. Now I'm working on pandemic, pretty much from 6 to midnight, whenever. But yeah, it's very important though, because it's like there's no cross pollination between the two, right? Like my day job's completely separate from the pandemic job, and that's where it becomes very difficult to have a work life balance because yeah, like customers, throughout the day. Obviously, I've got a sales team. I got people that run pandemic during the day while I'm at my day job. But at nighttime, that's where all the technical heavy lifting takes place, right? All the tuning's done at nighttime. All the orders are packed, fulfilled. Try to get to the UPS before they're cut off for shipping. It becomes very strenuous, and then obviously that bleeds into working nights, working weekends, working holidays. So it becomes a challenge to do work life balance, especially trying to do the racing side on top of that, and try to have some kind of social life and social media. I mean, as you know, social media is almost a
Social
full time
media
job.
is a full-time
Yeah.
job. You guys are going to come for me in the comments. I literally all day, every day, all I do, like I'm driving down the road, but I focus so much on social media because we just lived through the craziest flex of government power.
We did. Yep. Happy Trump Day, by the way.
Happy
Yep.
Trump Day.
Yep. That was
But the
awesome.
craziest flex of government control just happened
It did.
and showed the world. Well, not the world because we're the only ones that got cut off.
You are. I'm personally not a TikTok person, but I've got nothing against it. I just can't have it. So
I've learned in the last 3 days how important TikTok is for growing your brand.
it is.
Like on TikTok, I cut shorts out of everything I do, and it steers everybody over to YouTube because 5 years ago when TikTok started, my buddies were like, "You gotta get on this app," and I hated the idea. But I started chipping away at it, and then I grew. I'm not a mega creator by any means, but I started engaging with 40,000 people every time I clicked a button.
Wow.
And then now learning what I do now, after so many people dropped like screenshots of their statements and everything else, it's like you can't sleep on social media because in some cases it pays way more than a day job.
It certainly can. I mean, you see a lot of people out there. I mean, look at Whistling Diesel, for example. I mean, that's pretty much overnight. Blew up.
Yeah, they're out at Snowed In right now. Shout out to them guys. Can't wait to see that.
It is, yeah.
Unfold.
Fun fact: so Whistling Diesel Monster Max that was built down the road at D&D Patty, which is where we get a lot of our tires from. All the Patty tires.
Really?
Yeah, not even 10 minutes away from here, over in Milan.
Did you get to see them in person?
I did not get to meet Whistling Diesel in person, but I got to see the truck in person while it was there.
How big are them tires?
Huge, right? I mean, they're giant like ag flotation tires, and we had went over there because that was back when he was building the twin engine Duramax, and we got a phone call asking, hey, how do we handle the trans controls? We got 2 Duramax engines going to 2 transmissions, and everything's trying to be run independently, and they were fighting each other, right? So we just kind of went over there to provide a little guidance on, hey, maybe look at this or look at that and do it this way, and it ended up working out all right. So it's a pretty cool truck.
So the off-roading stuff is cool.
Yeah.
We've been friends for 2 years.
Yeah, goes by fast.
How did you go from snowmobiling, pumpkin farming, bounty racing, drag racing, the other car, bike, whatever, and how did you go from doing all that and then traveling to Hawaii or running out to New York for a quick little jog? I mean, what the hell's going on there?
Maybe that's just, I don't know, like that's why I don't have any kids. I don't have any pets. I got nothing against them. I just like, my lifestyle's always been constructed towards travel and just independence and freedom, right? And people ask, like, what is your driving force? Why do you do what you do, right? Like, people sometimes confuse that with, money is the goal, but honestly, personal freedom is the goal. I've always just wanted to wake up and just do whatever I want.
My thing's always been, if I can get paid, have enough to, I got 2 little babies and a wife.
Yep.
If I have enough money to provide for them, and then enough money to go play. That's it. I'm free.
That's it. Yeah.
As long as I have that freedom at my job.
Right. And that's a challenging thing, right? And that's where it is tough to juggle that because I do have a day job, and so pretty much like trips to Hawaii or things like that, or even like the off road races, that's all vacation time at work, right? I only get so much vacation time, but like
So how did like with working a normal 9 to 5, like I consider like what you do normal, and then me abnormal because I'm my own boss. If I don't feel like working,
right,
I don't.
yeah, yep.
So how did you balance that with doing the season 2 of Mud Madness?
So that's a really good question, and I've got to give my boss a lot of kudos on that one because yeah, at that point, once we got the call from Discovery say, hey, we want you to be part of season 2 on Mud Madness. You have to commit to, I think it was like 8 weeks of filming. So we ended up, having a large part in the season, and you'll see that once the seasons come out. I can't really talk about it right now, but that was a tough thing, and I was at this like fork in the road. I'm like, God, do I leave my day job now? I don't have any vacation left. How am I going to do this? It's like once in a lifetime opportunity. So I sat down with my boss and had a heart to heart conversation, explaining, hey, here's this opportunity I'm presented with. Here's what options I think I have. How can we work something out? And luckily, we were able to craft, a project that I was working on to a way where it was flexible and I could do it from the road. So
Cool.
we're already on a current like a hybrid type work system. So basically, how it worked was I was able to work from home Mondays and Fridays, and then be in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Because you boys did some
we did some
driving.
driving. I think last year we ended up doing close to 37,000 miles.
Just for the filming, or is that the whole season?
That was for the whole season. I tallied it up. We did almost 50 events between a lot of small events and Mud Madness events and everything else. So we're definitely going to scale that back this year and focus on a lot of core events. Obviously, Mud Nats is a big one. Gregory Lake's another big one. So,
what day are you getting down to Mud Nats?
So as a vendor, we got to set up on Monday of that week. So
we're gonna be there.
So I'll be there. We'll roll out of here. We'll pack up, roll out Friday night, get down there probably Sunday morning, hang out.
Yeah, my goal is to leave my house Saturday morning, drive from mine to Triage, pick up Sunday morning, and then float over to Texas.
So that's not too bad. How long of a drive is it for you?
If I would go straight from my front door to Sabine, is 12 and a half hours.
That's nice.
But since I'm making my detour down to Triage, it's going to be like a 16-hour drive.
Still not bad. It takes us between
20 and 22 hours.
It's about 25, all said and done.
That's because they don't got that driver in them.
On Google Maps, it shows it's 20-hour drive, but it usually ends up being 25 by the time we stop. You have to stop at Buc-ee's on the way down. So
you got to. I mean, it's just something, you're coming past it, and all of a sudden you just see this floating yellow and red beaver sign, and you're like,
honest, who doesn't love some beaver?
Man.
You got to stop.
Yeah, I mean, so all of a sudden you just smell the brisket sandwiches, and you're like, well, this is what I'm doing today.
And that place, it blows me away. It doesn't matter if it's 4 in the afternoon or 4 in the morning.
It is
always packed. But I've never had to wait in line. I don't know if you knew that.
I will say,
it's crazy.
I did see the scariest thing. On my way to OP, I left Elkhart, picked up the twin in Louisville, then we drove to Fort Worth.
Ooh.
Before we went back to Little Rock. And when we got to Fort Worth, it was snowing. And when we had pulled it into Fort Worth, we were like, all right, cool, we're going to stop at Buc-ee's on the way out in Denton, I think it was. And Buc-ee's was closed.
Really?
The first time I've ever seen a Buc-ee's closed.
Wow.
The lights were off.
Wow.
And nobody home.
Wow, that's got to be like some apocalyptic stuff there.
It was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Because, I drive for a living, so every time I see a Buc-ee's, parking lot's packed.
You got to stop. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, and the South isn't really... They don't get snow much, right? And this year they've had an unprecedented amount of snow.
And they're about to get snow tonight.
Yeah.
So it's January
20th. Yep.
Right? And they're expecting 2 inches of snow in Houston.
Yeah. Which is stuff that's unheard of, right? So it's...
Government needs to stop playing around with this weather.
Right, yeah, government control, right? Yeah, so... No, that's crazy. And segue a little bit back into the government and TikTok, right? I mean, you're saying social media, that's a big thing. And people always ask me why I don't have TikTok, right? And it's part of it's because there's there's a lot of stuff I work on that are government related, so there's that aspect of it. But one thing that I always wondered about TikTok, and I've always been kind of a conspiracy theorist, but like TikTok's owned by a Chinese company. So I've
For
always,
now.
for now, but I've always thought in the back of my mind, like, wouldn't that be a clever way for like China to spy on everybody, right? Because literally you've got access to people's phones. When you download the app, you got all the app permissions where everybody just skips past, oh yeah. So like, do you ever think that TikTok is like the intentional systematic dumbing down of society because the algorithm promotes people doing dumb stuff to get hits?
It used to. So when I first started TikTok, I would post a bunch of street racing content. And that's, in all honesty, that's where all my following had come from. Like, I blew up overnight. It was an immediate success. I mean,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
original videos like Jeepers Creepers. I have videos of Joe in the Prime S10, rest in
Oh
peace.
wow. Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
have videos that did huge numbers when I first got on TikTok that were absolutely out of control. Like,
Yeah.
Joe in the S10, like, he would be doing all-wheel drive burnouts,
Yeah.
past me. And those views did huge. Like,
Yeah.
it was a huge blow up. But now that I've watched the progression of TikTok, like, I've watched the new uh, community guidelines change,
Oh
and they
yeah.
have changed so much. Like, people were eating Tide Pods back when TikTok first
Well,
started,
yeah, and that's kind of yeah.
and then it progressed to bath salts, and then it was all this ignorant stuff. And now on TikTok, you see so many small brands that have grown into something huge.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
I
especially with
remember
like the whole
when,
TikTok shop thing. Yeah,
right?
I see that
Like,
blowing
I
up.
remember when I first started taking TikTok serious, I'd found Whiskey Biz
Okay.
on TikTok, and I think when I had seen him, he only had like 50,000 followers. But the things
Yeah.
that he was doing were already so
Yeah.
next level,
Right.
where like his form of content has taken over TikTok
It is
completely.
right, and like you see it, like he was the first one. Like the very first reel I saw of him was where he had the razor,
With the
pretty
loop.
much. He had the loop going around, and that was like that was you didn't
But
see
then you
that.
see all the live feeds of people like,
Right.
I am not good in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not
Like,
either.
this
So
part of it, I absolutely hate, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to provide people at home something that you don't get to see.
right.
And this is, this is the same as like when we see each other at the off-road park, this is
Yeah.
how we
This is
conversate.
how we are. Maybe a little bit more vulgar language, talking like a sailor, and a couple more trail sodas. But
Yeah, maybe a couple 12 packs, but
right. But
like,
the point's the same. Yeah.
it's just us as people
Yeah.
hanging out, and these are questions that, like, I didn't know a lot of this stuff about you,
Yeah.
but it's something that I wanted to provide to the people.
Yeah.
Because we don't get long form videos anymore
No.
that
No, you don't.
aren't 4 hours long.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what I wanted to try to bridge the gap, because there's so much information about companies' pandemic performance. You're not on TikTok.
Yeah.
How do people find you? You have
Yeah.
a website.
Yep, we got the website. We got Facebook. We've got YouTube, which we're working on growing our YouTube channel. And then we got Instagram too, and that's mainly how you find us. Facebook's our largest platform. That's what we focus on, and obviously our website. But yeah, like you said, like this is good. This is a good forum because people see us at events. We go to a lot of events, but we're always slammed. People we tune as many machines as we can. Sun up to sundown.
And it's a lot of people too, like,
Yeah.
that aren't good in like a face-to-face
Yeah, there's that
ordeal.
too.
So if I see you and I see you on the internet flying through this bounty hole,
Right.
it's like, oh, he's too cool to hang out with the rest of us.
People think that. Honestly, I'm pretty laid back, and yeah, it's funny the different you read through, and there's so many different stereotypes, or people think you're this type of person, and then they meet you, and it's like, oh no, it's different. Like I didn't grow up rich. People think I'm rich or something. It's like, no, I grew up just on an old family farm, and like
Pumpkin farming.
pumpkin farm. And what's funny, and here's a fun fact about me, not many know, is I was really the first one in my family to go to college.
Really?
And yeah, a lot of people ask, there's a lot of tuners out there. People always ask me, how did I get into this? Taking a couple steps back, but like I went to school for uh, mechanical engineering, and then so I got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering from University of Michigan. Then I got my dual master's in electrical mechanical engineering, and then ended up getting my MBA. So pretty much like you can go to school like the traditional route. The proper name for tuners is calibration engineer. That is something you can go to school for. But that's pretty much the steps I took. Growing up, I always saw, growing up in Motor City, you always see these zebra-colored test vehicles, and there's these guys riding in them with laptops, and I'm like, what job is that? Like,
Yeah.
I want to get paid to drive these cool-looking test cars around with a laptop. And going through school and figuring this out, I figured out that's a calibration engineer, and that's pretty much one of the few engineering jobs where you can actually you're basically tuning the car, right? You are the guy that's making all the tunes for the vehicle real time at an OEM level. So once I figured out what that was, I just worked backwards from there. Figured out here's the degree I need, here's where I need to work, and the rest is kind of history.
So did you get to do anything with the C8?
I did, yeah. I did a little bit of stuff with the C8. Most of the stuff I work on is going to be like, I've dabbled in the GT3, like, Corvette race car. I've done some IndyCar stuff. I do now, General Motors is getting into Formula One now. So there's some of that stuff. I work under with the whole motorsports umbrella. So there's a variety of stuff that I do work on, but it is a little bit of a departure from the actual day-to-day production. I'm not sitting there designing door handles or knobs and stuff there. I actually work, on the high performance stuff, doing a variety of powertrain things for them. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah,
So probably the last question. We're gonna wrap this up.
yeah, we're both hungry.
I'm starving. Out of all the places that you've been from, well, I guess there's two questions. What is your favorite off-road park?
Ooh, favorite off-road park. Um, Man, that is a tough one. Been to a lot of them, not all of them, but I'm gonna have to say Bogs and Boulders was actually pretty dang cool. Um, Sabine's always a favorite though too. I think I'm glad that Sabine. But honestly, out of all of them, and it sucks you can't go there anymore. But Mud Creek, where the original Mud
They're
Nats
coming
was,
back, I think.
are they coming back? So I've seen some posts about it, but that will always in my heart be when I think of Mud Nats, I think of Mud Creek, the sand pond, all that stuff. That was always the best time. So it'd be cool if it came back, but that's probably my favorite of all time because that one event and just the utter chaos of it is what really got me into doing what I do now.
And if you haven't been to Mud Nationals, I mean, even at Sabine,
You got to go. Yeah.
I mean, your idea of sleep, that was 3 days ago. So you better get ready.
Right.
So now you've been to Hawaii.
Yeah.
You were just out taking a jog in New York.
Yeah, I woke up. I'm like, I'm gonna go hike the Adirondacks today, and I did. So
what is the coolest place that you've been to not off-road related?
So I've been to all 50 states. I've been to every Canadian province, including the Arctic Circle. Not by choice, but for work stuff, to test stuff in the cold. Lived in Italy for a bit, China for a bit. Out of all the places I've been, Hawaii still reigns number one.
Really?
And that's because you kind of get the whole United States geography in one island. I mean, you got the mountains, it does snow there, you got the beaches, you've got lava, like where else are you going to see lava? The trails, the off-roading, the waterfalls. I'm a huge waterfall guy, and I like doing cave diving and stuff too. So all in one place. Plus, it's the same temperature all year round, and it's tropical. And I'm just a tropical vibe kind of guy.
They got wings there?
Like chicken wings?
Yeah.
Actually,
like,
they got really good.
How's the food there?
Really good. Hawaiian food's awesome. They got this like stuff that's called huli huli chicken, and the biggest thing there is going to be like pork. So they've got a lot of wild boars, so you got to have the Kahlua pork. My favorite thing in Hawaii is the spam musubi. Like, and I always like to try the local food. Like, so I go to like the local diner or gas station.
Spam or what?
Spam musubi. So think of it. A spam musubi is like it's like a sushi roll, but with spam. And then in the morning, it's spam with eggs and gravy with rice, all wrapped up in a little like sushi roll looking thing. And I'm at the gas station, and I'm like, what are those things? I've never seen that. Oh, it's a spam masubi, MASUBI. And I'm like, I got to try one of them. And I tried it, and I'm like, this is the best little thing I've ever had. Granted, I love sushi. If you don't like sushi, you probably won't like it. But I'm like, these are awesome. They're $1.99.
Real quick, I got to tell you a story. Everybody was telling me one day, they were like, man, you just got to grow up and try sushi. And to me, the whole thing was always weird, but I was like, you know what? I'll try it.
Yeah.
I go into the Loves because I'm on the road at the time.
It's probably the worst spot to get sushi.
And so here they are, just sitting in this little pack. And I'm like, oh, these don't look that bad.
Yeah.
Eat one. I was like, all right, really not that bad. 2, 3, 4, eat the whole pack, and I'm like, man, I'm still kind of hungry. And about 40 minutes later, I regretted it.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I can't do it because I just
Yeah.
remember the way it felt on the way back out.
Yeah, that's well. I think you should try it again, but go to a good sushi place. I don't care who you are like that. Like gas station sushi, never. That's just. I mean, that's
All my buddies were like, "Oh, this is a great idea," and then I got on the phone. I was like, "You guys wouldn't believe this.
Yeah,
I've been sick for 3 days."
yeah. That's funny though. I mean, speaking of like food and traditions, like people always kind of give me a hard time because I grew up in the north, right? I'm northern, so you go down south of Mason Dixon. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're a Yankee, whatever." But like my mom's whole side of the family is in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Really?
So every summer I grew up eating crawfish, boudin, and beignets and all this other stuff. I'm sure I'm butchering those names, but
Dude,
like I
same,
love
like,
Southern soul food, right? And that's just I love the South. I'm probably gonna move down south eventually,
you
but
need to come on with it.
it's just yeah, it's eventually gonna happen. If not this year, next year we're gonna move the operation down, and I'll finally probably leave the day job. So
Yeah.
it's a huge leap, right? But I think
Are you nervous about it?
not really. I've got enough of a plan in place where I think it's just the next step, right? Kind of all in, and the beauty with the educational side of it. I know by no means you need a college degree to go out and do stuff, but education is kind of something somebody can't take away from you. So
Right.
as an absolute worst case, go out, venture off on my own, do my own thing, and hey, it doesn't work out. I could always go back to corporate world, right, and be an engineer somewhere. So that's kind of the beauty of it. Would I want to do that? No, but
Yeah.
there's that safety net there. So, to answer your question, no, I'm not really scared to do it. It's just honestly, my day job is so cool and unique that like it's really tough.
Tell
to
them transfer
leave.
you down to the Corvette plant.
Yeah, well, no, so it's funny because like the race Corvettes, they're actually built. The racing stuff's either all here in Detroit or it's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's one of the two. And I've lived in North Carolina for a little bit when I was doing more of the IndyCar stuff there, and it's nice, but like I'd much rather, I'm thinking Eastern Tennessee or like Northern Alabama, somewhere in that general region. I mean, I love Texas too, but Texas is becoming the new California. It feels like so.
There's a bunch of
Yeah.
people, like, you see it on all, like, I'm guilty. Like, I watch a bunch of like big podcasts, and everybody's talking about, oh, I can't wait. I've been looking at houses in Austin.
Cha-ching. Yeah.
And I mean, you could literally throw a quarter at everybody who talks about moving to Austin. And so for me, like, how I ended up in Kentucky was pretty funny. Like, I hung out with a bunch of street racers, no prep guys, and they're like, one day we were all sitting there bullshitting, and I was like, man, as soon as I crossed the bridge, and everybody knows the bridge I'm talking about, everything changes. The weather, the people.
Literally.
It's weird because on this side of the I mean,
it's like
literally on the Indiana side, you're like, man, this place is so boring. You drive through 5 hours of wind farms and farm fields, and then all of a sudden you hit the bridge and you're like, wow, this is way different.
Yeah.
And then you cross the border into Tennessee, and then you start meeting some creatures, and shout out if you're from Tennessee, but not really my thing until you hit the Nashville area. And I can't live in Nashville because I like to drink way too much.
Yeah, Nashville, it's almost like the Las Vegas of the East, It's like it's getting to be that way. But I mean, I don't mind Tennessee. Like it does get a little backwoods, but West Virginia, I don't know. Have you ever rode the Hatfield McCoys down?
No,
you gotta try it. But you want to talk about some backwoods
creatures?
Oh, I mean, it's cool because you'll dip off. You'll be riding up a creek. There's this thing called the Outlaw Trails there, which are like the trails only locals know about. They're not really mapped, but it's some of the best riding. You're riding up a creek. Next thing you know, you're down in a holler, and you come up across a shack in the woods. And there's a good old boy on the porch, with pipe hanging out of his mouth, and he's got a shotgun, and you're like, oh no,
wrong turn.
I need to get out of here.
I'm leaving.
And he's like, boy, if I'm around here, it's like, but there's some pretty cool stuff.
I encountered I can't say creatures are all over Tennessee. That was kind of rude, but
well, creatures are everywhere. We got creatures up here too. It's just
well, my experience was Eastern Tennessee. We had stayed in some low-budget cabins. It was before I had the enclosed, so I was like, well, I'll just pay the money and stay at this cabin. And those people had cabins literally wired to a regular house outlet.
Oh, yeah.
And the AC went out. Then the heat went out. And then the electricity went out. We come back from a day of riding, and it was like, what the hell you all got going on here? Like, it was terrible. And then the guy was like, we won't offer you a refund, but I got some moonshine out back. You want to drive me up to this I was like, no, sir. Like, I'm good. I'm just going to
knows,
park my ass in this cabin.
Yeah, I mean, that was like West Virginia. Like there, coal is obviously a big industry there, and then the byproduct of the coal mining is a lot of natural gas, and that's the only place in all of the world where they run natural gas lines like garden hoses across people's yards. And like we asked the locals, I'm like, why are the gas lines like literally going across the creek and over the yard? And they're like, what are you gonna do? Bury them? Like that's dumb. And I'm like, yeah, you do bury them. Yeah, that's what.
That's what the rest
like,
of us
like
experience.
Like, to us, like we were down. Like, why would you do that? And I'm like, okay, but it's cool. I mean, if I lived in West Virginia, if I wanted to save money, I'd probably live in West Virginia because housing's cheap there, and I would just have everything run off natural gas. I'd buy a plot of land because they get free gas. If you're on a plot of land,
Really?
and they're farming gas out of your property. Like for what the locals told me, I can't vouch this as fact, but they said you get free natural gas. I would have natural gas generator running everything. You can bet that. But we'll see. I mean, it's good riding. You definitely got to try it out. I probably wouldn't take my huge buggy down there because it's tight and technical. This machine has been down there back when I was on 35s, and I thought it was big.
Ain't no chance. Like rocks
no way.
I'm out. Seriously,
no
like
way.
when it comes to rock riding, my twin, he will hit a backflip if you blink twice.
Yeah.
Me? No, hell no.
Yeah. He's a wild boy.
Oh man. We all, I think, as a whole, are out of control. Like when we get together in an off-road park, look out.
Yeah.
Because the only thing stopping us is passing out.
Because I like to party, and I can't hang with you boys sometimes. I mean, like I'm like, God dang, like, but I know you have a good time. Yeah, a good thing going on. Dirty Rides is awesome. So
yeah, if you made it this far, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and tell us what you think about the whole series of In the Wild. And I can't thank you enough for letting me pull up, and you had a nice driveway so I could turn around.
Thank you enough either. I know. I was just sitting here working in the shop. This guy messages me, "Hey, I'm passing through your area. I'll see you in an hour or two." I'm like, "Okay, sure. Yeah."
Invite yourself on in.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you stopped though. So always want to do a podcast with you. You got a good channel. Like I said, like and subscribe. Dirty Rides, and then obviously Pandemic Performance.
And his link will be in the description below.
And if you need your ride tuned, a little shameless plug. That's what we do. We're the tuner guys, but we carry a lot of other parts too. So
cool.
Maybe one day we'll tune your ride. We'll see.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.